So this video is on multi-dimensional arrays, and multi-dimensional arrays are very similar to one-dimensional arrays. Really, the only difference is that when we have let's say we make a one-dimensional array, if we do something like this gives us space for an array of 5 integers. Right, so I have a space inside my memory that can hold 5 integers. Looks like I just made 4, but here we go. So 5 integers, and this would be my memory. When I do something like this, int array 5, 5, I just now created a multi-dimensional array. And basically what that does is it gives me space for 5 arrays, right? So let's say this is my multi-dimensional array. It now creates 5 arrays of size 5. So now I have 5 arrays here. So let me just go ahead and draw those out. All right, sorry that took so long. So now I basically have 5 arrays of 5s. And if you notice, this is kind of like a grid now. If you look at this is a grid, right? We have 5 rows, and now we also have 5 columns. And so this would be considered a 2-dimensional array. And so now we can do a lot of 2-dimension calculations, right? If we wanted to, let's say like X and Y graph, we can start putting coordinates inside this array, or we can use this array for coordinates. So, also if we wanted to, say we wanted to make a little tic-tac-toe game, we could create a 3x3 array, right? And now this array here would be really useful for tic-tac-toe. All right, so the way we declare a multi-dimensional array is pretty simple, right? So let me just write this. Declaring a 2D array, for example. We just say the data type, right? And then we get an identifier. Oops, sorry. And then inside our brackets, we're going to have the number of arrays. And then we have another bracket, meaning the size of each of those arrays. Right, so here's an example. I do integer. My identifier is array. I have my bracket. I want to have 3 arrays. Sorry, 3 arrays of size 3. Right, and that is my 3x3 array. And now I can make my tic-tac-toe board. All right, so how about adding value to an array? We can add value to an array in a few ways. So let's say initializing an array. Initializing a 2D array. So we can do it manually, where we can say, array 0, 0 equals 4, array 0, 1 equals 6, dot, 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 all the way till we get to array 2, 2 equals. So that's one way. Another way we can do it is we can use the curly brace notation, just like we did with two-dimensional arrays. Um, well, sorry, I'm sorry. That would be declaring and initializing an array. So this is basically the way that we do it. But we can also use a for loop, and a for loop could be a lot easier. I could say for int I equals 0, while I is less than, and that's going to be less than the number of arrays that I have, right? So I'll say num of arrays. All right, this is going to be how many rows I have, right? So that's going to be how many arrays I have inside my array. So that's I plus plus. Your secret word today is glass. All right, and so inside this array, we're now going to have another nested for loop, right? So I'll say for int j equals 0, while j is less than, and now this is going to be the size of each array, right? So I can say size of each array. Of course, you don't want to name your variables this. You can just say row and columns or something like that. And then, of course, I do j plus plus. All right, and so now I can say array I j equals, let's say 0. Say we want to initialize all of our index variables to 0. Then this is the way we'll do it, right? And so the way this works is say I equals 0, right? So I is equal to 0, and now we're going to start a new for loop, and so it's going to start where I is 0, and since now we're inside the inner loop, right? Now we're in an inner loop, then I is going to remain 0, and then j is going to go from 0 to whatever the size is. So in this case, let's say 3. So it'll go 0, 1, and then 0. Sorry, it'll say 0, 0, right? Because j is 0. I doesn't change, and then j goes to 1, so that's going to be 0, 1, then 0, 2, right? And then it'll stop. Then this loop will stop, and we'll start again. Now I will be equal to 1. So now we would be in our loop again. And so now I is equal to 1. So it will say 1. And then j starts at 0. So it will say 1, 0. Then j goes to 1. It'll be 1, 1. Then j goes to 2. It'll be 1, 1, 2. And so that's how we will populate our multi-dimensional array. I know that was pretty screwed up there, but try it out. Write this code out, and you'll see how this nested loop is working. We've done nested loops already in chapter 3, so we should be somewhat familiar with a nested loop. But just remember, when we do something like this, if we say for int I inside the outer loop and for int j in the inner loop, I represents the rows, j represents the columns. All right. So if we want to get the value, well, let's talk about declaring and initializing a 2D array. All right, to declare and initialize, I can do something like this. Int array, and let's say we want to do a 3 by 3 array. Then I use my curly brace, right? I'm using my curly brace notation, right? And remember that a 2D array is an array of arrays. So that means that in my curly brace, I'm going to have 3 arrays, right? So I can say arrays, and then I can put 1, 2, 3, right? So that's 1 array. And then I can do another array here, 4, 5, 6. That's 2 arrays. And then here's my third array, 7, 8, 9. right? So, and then I close my outer array, right? So from here to here is my outer array, right? From here to here is my outer array. And then I have individual arrays here, right? So that's how I have two-dimensional array. It's an array of an arrays, right? This is my first array, this is my second array, that's my third array. Of course, but the indexes would be different. This would be array at index 0, this would be array at index 1, this would be array at index 2. All right, so that's declaring and initializing an array. And let me put my semicolon there. All right, what about using a 2D array inside of a function? So the syntax to use a 2D array in the function is that we would have to pass our 2D array, but we have to tell the function how many arrays are inside our 2D array, right? So let's just use an example. We can just call this like our fill. If we want to fill a 2D array, then we pass in a 2D array as our parameter, and but we have to tell it that this array, the 2D array, will only take an array that has three rows. And we don't have to put anything for the columns, but we do have to put a number for the rows. Then we pass a variable, and this will tell us how many rows, right? So this would be the size that we pass into this function is telling us what number actually goes here, how many arrays we have inside our 2D array. All right, so let me repeat that. When we send in our size, we're telling them how many rows are in our 2D array, and that means how many arrays we have in our two-dimensional array, right? So in this case, we have we have size arrays of size 3, right? So if size was 5, we would have a 5 by 3 array. We would have an array that has 5 arrays, and each of those arrays have 3 elements. All right, and so that's how we pass to a function. And the same rules apply for a 2D array that it does for a 1D array, meaning if I pass in an array to my function, then it does act as pass by value. So anything that gets changed to the array inside this function also gets changed to the array that is passed to the function. All right, and I think that is all we need to know about 2D arrays. I hope you enjoyed the video.